The worst year for a lot of us for our mental as well as physical health. So joining us this morning is best-selling author, coach Lisa Goldenthal.
Hello and welcome. I'm Lisa G, your host. You're at the top of your game, yet the game is changing faster than ever. Strategies that got you here aren't the ones that'll keep you here. The pressure is relentless, and the fear of obsolescence looms large. That's why I'm here. Welcome to the new podcast series, Disrupted: How to Be Gritty and Unlock Performance in Business, Mindset, Wellness, and Success to help you master disruption.
Thanks for coming, and I'll see you soon.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the WholeCEO with Lisa G show, where we bring you the top minds in leadership, performance, and unstoppable success. Today, I am beyond excited to welcome someone who is truly rewritten the rules of the media world. She's the CEO and founder of Yap Media, host of the Young and Profiting podcast, ranked among the top 100 podcasts globally. Hala went from being rejected by mainstream media to building a seven-figure podcast empire, landing brand partnerships with the biggest names, and creating one of the fastest-growing media companies of the decade. She's been featured in New York Times, Founder, Podcast Magazine, and is known across the world as the Podcast Princess. And today, she's here to share her playbook with you for scaling influence, building community, and turning your personal brand into serious business growth. Welcome to the podcast, Hala Taha.
Thank you. Thank you, Lisa. Happy to be here.
Me too. Let's dive in.
All right.
We've talked openly about rejection and how it fueled your journey. Can you take us back to that turning point, the moment you decided to build your own stage instead of waiting for someone to give you one?
Yeah, I mean, I've had so many rejections in my life. I think one of the biggest ones, early ones, was when I was in college. I actually dropped out of college to intern at a very popular radio station called Hot 97. It was one of the biggest radio stations in the world. And I got this internship. And I did really well in this internship, so much so that they told me to start coming every day, even when the internship was over. So that internship turned into a job that I didn't get paid for almost 3 years.
Wow.
And I went to the station every day and I worked my butt off, and all my siblings were going to med school. I'm like the youngest of four children. Everybody was going to med school. I was starting to get a lot of pressure from my family. So I asked for a paying job once a job opened up. I was already doing the producer role for the radio show, and the producer got fired. So I was like, makes sense. I'm doing his job. That's why he got fired. So hire me. And then they hired somebody else and they expected me to train him. So instead of doing that, I said, I'm sorry, I don't feel good. I'm not going to work today. And they fired me. They fired me from a job I never had. So that really put some fire under my butt. And I started a blog shortly after. I got fired on a Thursday. By Sunday, I had a new idea. I was to start the sorority of hip hop. I was to be the president of it. And I knew how to blog from some activities that I was doing on the side at the station, and started this blog. And it became one of the most popular hip hop and entertainment sites at that time. And so that's just one example of a rejection story. And in terms of starting my business, that was more so not really a rejection story, but it was seeing my father, actually, who got sick from COVID. It was 2020. Our family was living in New Jersey, and we were one of the first families impacted, like March 2020 of COVID. And my dad got COVID. He was a doctor. And I remember I had this podcast. It was about 2 years old. It was doing really well. I was kind of a LinkedIn influencer, had this podcast. And my dad got sick and we had to send him to the hospital. And I remembered feeling about just how life was so limited in a way, and that you really just have one life to live. And I realized I was just playing too small. Like, sure, I was doing more than other people, having a side hustle, a podcast, but I felt like I could play way bigger. And that's when I decided to launch my company.
Wow. Thank you for the vulnerable share. I really appreciate how authentic you really are and inspiring my audience with your real story, because we all fall down. It's just a matter of how do we pick ourselves back up. And
Mm-hmm.
you've been known for skill stacking, combining marketing, operations, production, and strategy. What advice do you have for high performers who want to reinvent themselves?
Yeah. Skill stacking is just so important. I'm really a strong believer of like getting experiences, of becoming a master, not at like so many skills, but getting really good at like core skills and things that naturally feel good to you. So, for example, with me, I became a top 100 podcaster. But, when I think of like the most amazing interviewers in the world, like I'm not one of them. Like I'm a great interviewer, but like Stephen Bartlett might be, and Tim Ferriss, they might be like better interviewers than me. But I have other skills in my pocket. I'm a really good marketer. I'm a really good salesperson. I'm a really good motivator. I can build teams. And so I put all those things together. And with that skill stack, I was able to become a top 100 podcaster. A great example of this is the cartoonist Dilbert. Scott Adams is the one who created Dilbert. He's the one that taught me this. So he created this cartoon that was about like a corporate office. He had corporate experience. He
Right.
wasn't that great of a drawer. Like it was not like he was the best artist in the world. He was pretty funny. He put all those things together and created like one of the most profitable cartoons in the world, right? So you don't have to be the best at everything, but you've got to be really good at like a set of things and figure out how to put them together in a solution that people actually want. Like what do people actually need, and how can your skills stack to create that solution for people?
Well, thanks for sharing that formula too, because marketing is so important. I mean, you could be the best podcaster, and I beg to differ that you're actually pretty awesome.
Oh,
And
thanks.
I've heard your podcast many times, but without marketing, nobody else would know about it, right?
Exactly.
So thanks for I mean, because so many people will say, oh, just do your zone of genius and hire everything else out. But this is so refreshing because I'm an entrepreneur. I wear all the hats and I can't hire every single thing out. I had to learn a lot of these skills myself. And was there like a specific mindset shift that turned no into your biggest competitive advantage?
That turned no into my biggest can you repeat that?
Oh, like a mindset shift. Did you have to shift your mindset from no to this is my advantage?
Yeah, I mean, I think when I think of like mindset shifts, I think about my journey from corporate to being an entrepreneur. So when I was in corporate, I look very young for my age. Okay, so I look about 10 years younger than I really am. I'm about to be 40 years old,
Oh
right?
my gosh. Yeah, you
Yeah.
look great.
So I look really young. And um, I looked even younger 10 years ago, right? So I would be in corporate. And I remember I worked at Hewlett Packard and I worked there for 5 years. I started as an MBA intern and I got promoted and I worked my way up. And by the end of it, I was like chief of staff for the CEO, for the CMO. And everybody respected me because I started as an intern and then I worked my way up and I spent 5 years like showing my worth. Even though I looked so young, I still had respect at that company. Then I moved to Disney and it was like I was an intern all over again because I looked so young. And people were getting promoted
Yeah.
over me who just literally looked older, even though I was doing more work, doing better work, had more experience. It's just that face value, I didn't look valuable because I looked too young and I'm very girly. And that played to my disadvantage. The mindset shift was realizing that all those things that were negative about me in corporate were an advantage online. It was an advantage that I looked young. It was an advantage that I looked different. It was an advantage that I got attention because I'm like pretty cute, Like, so I think all those things that were a detriment to me in corporate turned out to be an advantage online. And so I just leaned into that. I was like, well, if I'm not going to get promoted at this corporate job, I'm going to start building social capital online. I'm going to start building this asset that I can take with me from place to place and start building this personal brand. And I did that starting in 2018 before a lot of people really thought about creator entrepreneurship and building a personal brand. So I essentially was able to build like this moat around me and start building my influence on LinkedIn and podcasts specifically so that I could generate wealth. And I think the mindset shift was really realizing that sometimes it's the environment that you're in. It's not you, it's the environment. One company treated me really nicely, one company didn't. And the environment of online is the best environment that you could be in, period, because you've got all the control.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. It's so inspiring for me just to hear your story and what's possible when you control your brand. I mean, you built one of the most loyal audiences in podcasting. What is the biggest secret to turning listeners into buyers?
Listeners into buyers, I would say that trust is extremely important. Okay. For podcasts, that vehicle in itself is a very trustworthy vehicle. So people are listening to your voice. They're listening to you while they have full focus. When somebody listens to a podcast, they're doing dishes, they're driving, they're working out, they're doing some sort of task that does not require their brain. And so when they hear you in their ears, they feel super connected. They listen to every single word that you say, and they really feel like you're a trusted advisor, that you're a friend, and they feel like they know you really, really well. So podcast in itself is this huge trust builder. Long form content is a huge trust builder. And now I'm really starting to get into more video. There's this big shift, especially with Gen Z. It's like 80% of Gen Z listeners prefer to watch their podcasts on videos compared to regular listeners. And like half of regular listeners want to watch their podcasts on videos. And video is something that is just completely the heart of creator entrepreneurship. And that's something that I'm really focused on because video also builds a lot of trust. Video is easier to comprehend than just audio only. People understand and learn better from video, and they also can connect like more emotionally to video, and again feel like you're a trusted friend. And the crux of it all in terms of getting people to buy from you is trust. You need people to trust you. And you do that by being vulnerable, by sharing value, and by having a solution that they actually want. Back to what we were talking about earlier, right? So understanding what people's pain points are and actually being able to deliver on an outcome that can help them, right? So that's how you get people to buy from you.
Well, thank you for going over the trust factor. That's so important. And I prefer to watch podcasts on video. I'm like focusing from Gen Z, but I am more of a visual learner. So I think that's great that you're expanding more into video, and many of us like want to monetize our message, but we struggle with conversion, asking for a friend. So how do you go from content to cash without losing that authenticity?
Yeah, I mean, I think, like, can I ask you a question? What do you sell?
I'm a high performance executive coach, so I sell performance coaching.
Okay. How do you typically sell to, how do you get your leads?
Well, I'm working on direct message campaigns on LinkedIn. I follow you on LinkedIn, and that's
Oh, cool.
my main social media because my ideal client is high level executives, and that's kind of like where they're at. And I'm always creating content. And I really, started in health and fitness, and I wanted to make a bigger difference. So high performance executive coaching is sort of like my triple threat, where obviously health and fitness is part of being a high performer, but so is EQ, so is managing your energy, so is self-leadership. So sort of merged it all in and moved into LinkedIn and don't even look at Facebook anymore.
Yeah, well, it's really, that's some of the things that you said are really great. Like, it's really great when you're first starting out building your personal brand to focus on one platform. Put all your chips on that platform, post on it every day, get your reps up, get the engagement up, understand the algorithm in and out, and start to grow a loyal audience. You only need 1,000 loyal fans to make sales. You only need one person. Like, how expensive is your offer? If you had 20 people who would buy from you every month, you'd probably make a lot of money, right? So you don't need
Oh, yeah,
millions of people to buy from you.
absolutely.
You need dozens of people to buy from you. So you don't need to have a huge following. So one of the blockers that people have is that they're too scared to start because they think that they need to become this like, huge influencer to have any sort of sales. But that's just not true. You just need to be somebody who's generating a decent amount of views and providing value so that you'll be able to convert your audience. Now, having a personal brand is one of the easiest ways to get people to convert. Being able to show that you actually have done the thing that people want. So, for example, when you're selling your executive coaching, what are your proof points that you are a great performance coach? Like, what is your social proof there?
Well, thanks for asking. I actually have been voted in the top 15 executive coaches in 24, top 50 in 25. So it is starting to track a little bit.
Yeah. So basically, like you've got the proof points, you've got different accolades. So you can be posting that on your social media, on your bio, and things like that. But more importantly, it's like in terms of getting people to convert, you want to build that trust before they even get on the sales call, right?
Ah,
So you want to build that trust through having amazing content where they're following you. And every time they absorb your content, you're just getting closer and closer to making a sale. So you want to provide so much value and just keep building up that social capital before you ever make an ask. So for example, when you're warming people up, it might be a lead magnet where you're bringing them to some sort of ebook that has tips on, how to level up in your career, or some sort of quiz that you can take them through and then give them advice at the end of the quiz. Or better yet, you do some sort of webinar where it's a 45-minute training. You're explaining who you are, why you're the expert in the field. You're giving them some sort of framework, and then you're making a one-to-many sale at the end of the webinar, right? So there's different ways that you can warm up your audience: an educational newsletter, a blog, but you need to do something to position yourself as an expert and give value first and give away your best content for free before you can actually, go make the sale. So the best way I think to convert people faster is to give really valuable information away, where people understand that you're the expert. So by the time they get on the call, they're already ready for the sale. It's just a matter of the logistics and not really a sales call at all.
wow. So you just build the authority first before you start. Nobody wants to be like those pitch slaps that are coming at you left and right all over. Like, I can get you 10, 15 clients and I can pack your calendar. You want to be providing the value first
Mm-hmm.
before you
Exactly.
try to jump down their throat. And I know it's a short podcast, but you are known for owning your personal brand online and off. How can executives and thought leaders show up as their most powerful, visible selves without feeling fake or forced?
Mm. I think number one thing for me is competence, right? So, like, competence is confidence, right? So, for me, I know my stuff. Like, for example, I'm a podcaster, but I don't only know like how to show up and do an interview. I want to make sure I have the best interview possible. I'm doing so much research before my interview itself. I'm reading everybody's books. I'm, preparing really hard to have an amazing interview. But outside of that, I understand the business of podcasting. I understand how to monetize podcasts. I understand how to grow podcasts. I understand how to rank podcasts. So much so that I now do it for other people. So I become a master at podcasting. Similarly, I become a master at LinkedIn, growing my LinkedIn, going viral, making sales off LinkedIn, and then doing that for other people and like keep expanding those skills. So when I talk about LinkedIn and podcasts, I'm really confident. And no matter if I'm in person, online, it doesn't matter. I'm really confident because I know there's not many people who know more than me. Like, I've done the work. I've put in the 10,000 hours or whatever to make sure that I know everything that I need to know about these two things. Okay. But if you go and you're like, Hala, talk to me about tax, I'm not going to show up confidently. I'm going to be like, I don't know. I hire somebody for this. I don't know anything about taxes.
Right.
And I don't
Right.
want to know anything about it. So to me, competence breeds confidence. And I think the most thing that I see people fail at, when it comes to having executive presence and things and that, it's like they just don't, you can tell that they're not confident because they haven't done the work to be competent. Okay. So
Mm.
it's basically like, what are you going to actually focus on and become an expert on? and be so passionate about that you read every article about it, that you try things on your own, that you be scrappy, that you learn online, you learn from YouTube, you learn from books, so that you can really know your stuff and show up with that knowledge that will bring everybody else on board for your journey. Because when you teach people, you inspire them. And when you teach people, you also learn more yourself, right? So it's like, how can you be so good at what you do that when you teach people, they really look up to you because you know more than them and you can bring them on this journey. And that's how I think you build executive presence and things like that.
I love it. Confidence is competence. That is a writer downer, you guys. I hope you're taking notes. And first of all, this was incredible. Your story, your strategy, your energy are exactly what our audience of high performance leaders need to hear. Check out the Young and Profiting podcast. I am a subscriber. Visit yapmedia.com for media, branding, podcasting services that truly scale. Thank you, Hala, and everyone listening. Remember, rejection isn't the end of your story. It's the beginning of your empire. Anything else you want to leave our audience with about how to be unstoppable?
Uh, no, thank you so much for having me on the show.
Well, thank you for being a great guest.
Thanks.